Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this explosive breakdown of one of the most talked about moments in daytime television history. Today, we're diving deep into the shocking incident where Hollywood icon Kevin Costner was unceremoniously kicked off The View following a blistering clash with the outspoken co-host Joy Behar. It was October 10, 2025, just a few days ago, and the set of ABC's beloved talk show was buzzing with anticipation. Costner, fresh off the massive success of his directorial epic Horizon, an American saga, had flown in from his Santa Barbara ranch to promote the film's upcoming streaming release and chat about his passion for Western cinema. At 70 years old, the Dances with Wolves star still commands the room with his rugged charm and gravelly voice, but no one could have predicted the fireworks that would erupt. The View's Hot Topics segment had already touched on celebrity activism and Hollywood's role in social issues, setting a charged atmosphere. As Costner settled into the iconic curved couch, flanked by Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and of course, the fiery Joy Behar, the audience erupted in applause. Whoopi kicked things off with lighthearted banter about Costner's cowboy persona, asking if he'd brought his horse along for the ride. Laughter filled the studio, and Costner grinned, sharing a quick anecdote from the Horizon set where a real stampede nearly derailed a key scene. But beneath the surface pleasantries, tensions simmered. Behar, known for her no-holds-barred style and liberal leanings, had been vocal in recent episodes about environmental hypocrisy in Hollywood. Costner, a vocal supporter of Native American rights and land conservation, seemed like the perfect guest, or so everyone thought. As the conversation flowed into his film's themes of manifest destiny and indigenous struggles, Behar's eyes narrowed, signaling the storm about to break. The camera caught a subtle shift. Costner's easy smile faded just a touch as Joy leaned forward, microphone in hand, ready to unleash her pointed query. What followed would leave jaws on the floor and social media ablaze, turning a routine promo spot into tabloid gold. This wasn't just a spat, it was a collision of egos, ideologies, and unfiltered truths that exposed the raw underbelly of celebrity interviews. And as we unpack every heated word and stunned reaction, you'll see why this exit isn't just shocking. It's a wake-up call for how we hold our stars accountable. Stay tuned as we rewind to that fateful moment, frame by frame, because what happened next changed the game for The View forever. The interview started smoothly enough, with Costner regaling the panel about the grueling 2-year shoot for Horizon, where he poured over $100 million of his own fortune into crafting an authentic portrayal of America's turbulent expansion. It's not just a movie, he said earnestly, his blue eyes locking with the camera, it's a reckoning with our history, good, bad, and ugly. The co-hosts nodded appreciatively. Sarah Haynes gushed over the epic cinematography, while Sunny Hostin praised the diverse casting that highlighted native voices. But Joy Behar, sipping her coffee with a mischievous glint, had other ideas. At 83, the comedian-turned-co-host has built a career on skewering sacred cows, and Costner's eco-warrior image, complete with his oceanfront estate and private jet travels, had long been a pet peeve. Kevin, love the film, really, she began, her Brooklyn accent dripping with faux sweetness, but let's talk brass tacks. You're out here preaching about protecting the plains from pipelines and fracking, yet word on the street is you've got a mega mansion in California that's basically a carbon footprint on steroids. Solar panels don't erase private flights to your Yellowstone set, honey. The studio fell pin-drop silent. Costner's jaw clenched, a flicker of irritation crossing his weathered face, the same one that had emoted through Field of Dreams' heartfelt monologues. He paused, measuring his words like a gunslinger eyeing his holster. Joy, with all due respect, he replied, his voice steady but edged with steel, I've donated millions to conservation efforts. My home, off-grid as it gets. But yeah, I fly to work, like every actor in this town. You wanna audit my carbon emissions live on air? The audience tittered nervously, but Behar wasn't backing down. She waved a manicured hand dismissively. Oh, please, spare me the deflection. It's easy to play the noble cowboy when your ranch is a tax write-off. What about the real folks losing their land to the very industries your blockbusters romanticize? Whoopi tried to interject with a chuckle, ladies, let's keep it civil, but the die was cast. Costner leaned in, his broad shoulders tensing under his crisp button-down. Romanticize. Horizon shows the genocide, the betrayal, it's not a love letter to oil barons. But you, Joy, sitting in your Manhattan high-rise, judging from afar. That's rich. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the exchange escalated, cameras zooming in on the electric standoff. Alyssa Farah Griffin shifted uncomfortably, whispering to Sarah, but it was too late. The polite promo had morphed into a full-throated debate on privilege and authenticity. Viewers at home, tuning in for light escapism, were suddenly glued to their screens, phones already lighting up with #Costner vs Behar. This was no scripted drama, it was live wire reality, and the sparks were about to ignite a blaze no producer could extinguish. As the clock ticked past the commercial break tease, the heat in the studio cranked up to unbearable levels, with Behar doubling down like a prosecutor in closing arguments. "Kevin, darling, I've interviewed cowboys before. John Wayne didn't need a fleet of jets to tell a story," she quipped, drawing scattered laughs from her loyal fans in the audience. But Costner, no stranger to tough roles from his Untouchables days, fired back without missing a beat. "John Wayne, he played soldiers while dodging the draft. At least I'm in the trenches, literally, funding films that educate, not glorify." The barb landed hard. Whoopi covered her mouth in mock horror, while Sunny murmured, "Oof, that's a low blow." Behar's cheeks flushed, her signature wit sharpening to a razor. "Educate. Your Yellowstone glorifies guns and grit while real ranchers battle climate change you jet setters exacerbate. Hypocrisy much." Costner's eyes flashed with genuine anger, the kind honed from decades of portraying stoic heroes pushed to their limits. He set his water glass down with a deliberate thud that echoed through the microphones. "Hypocrisy. Look in the mirror, Joy. You rant about Trump and billionaires from a network owned by Disney, talk about corporate sellouts. At least my hypocrisy builds sets that employ thousands, including the native crews you claim to champion." The audience erupted, half cheers, half boos, creating a cacophony that drowned out Sarah's attempt at mediation. "Guys, we're all friends here." But friendship was the last thing on anyone's mind. Behar slammed her palm on the table, her voice rising an octave. "Don't you dare lecture me on sellouts. I've been calling out power since before you were dancing with wolves. You're just a pretty face with a guilty conscience." Costner rose halfway from his seat, pointing a finger that trembled with restrained fury. "Pretty face. I've buried friends, lost fortunes, all to tell truths you dismiss as PR. If that's your take, maybe I don't belong on this circus." Producers off camera signaled frantically, earpieces buzzing with damage control directives, but the hosts were locked in, the panel fracturing like glass under pressure. Social media exploded in real time. Tweets flew decrying Behar's ageist ambush, while others hailed her as a truth-telling queen. Backstage whispers later revealed crew members frozen in shock, one producer muttering, "This is worse than the O'Reilly walkout." And as the argument peaked, with Costner accusing Joy of coastal elitism, and her retorting with delusional diva, the invisible line was crossed, no longer banter, but a personal assault that demanded intervention. The View had always thrived on spirited debate, but this was visceral, unscripted warfare, and the fallout was just beginning to dawn on the stunned set. In the eye of the storm, with lights blazing and cameras unflinching, the clash reached its boiling point, transforming the polished set into a verbal coliseum. Costner, his face a mask of controlled rage reminiscent of his Wyatt Earp intensity, jabbed back at Behar's latest salvo. "Elitism, coming from the woman who mocks flyover folks daily. Horizon honors the heartland, you wouldn't know grit if it roped you in." Behar, undeterred, her eyes blazing behind her glasses, shot up from her chair, gesturing wildly. "Grit, you're the one lassoing sympathy for oil-rich fantasies while the planet chokes. Spare us the white savior complex. Kevin, your films peddle nostalgia, not progress." The words hung heavy, slicing through the air like a director's cut to raw air. Whoopi finally pounded the table, booming, "Enough. We're not doing this today," but her voice barely pierced the din. Costner, now fully standing, towered over the panel, his 6'1" frame casting a shadow that symbolized the crumbling civility. "White savior, that's your takeaway from a story about stolen lands. You're twisting history to fit your narrative, Joy, just like the tabloids twist mine." The audience was a powder keg, some chanting, "Kevin, Kevin," while others yelled support for Joy, creating a chaotic symphony that forced the sound techs to adjust levels frantically. Alyssa, ever the diplomat, reached out a hand. "Kevin, sit, let's talk solutions," but he shrugged it off, turning to the camera directly. "Folks at home, this is why Hollywood's broken. We try to spark dialogue, and it devolves into gotchas. Behar, sensing the tide turning against her, pivoted with venom. Broken, you're the poster boy, divorces, lawsuits, now storming off like a diva. Classy. That was the match to the fuse. Costner's face darkened, veins pulsing in his neck as he grabbed his jacket from the couch arm. Classy. This interview's over. I've got real work to do, not this ambush theater. Gasps unified the crowd as he strode toward the exit, but producers, two burly stagehands in black, intercepted, gently but firmly escorting him through the side door amid a flurry of backstage chaos. Behar slumped back, muttering, "Good riddance," while the other hosts exchanged wide-eyed glances. Off-air mics caught Whoopi's exasperated sigh. What the hell just happened? As the red light blinked off for a hasty break, the set felt haunted by the echo of raised voices, a stark reminder that live TV's magic lies in its peril. Viewers flooded apps with reactions, from Team Costner, "Joy's a bully," to, finally, someone called out his greenwashing. The incident wasn't just a blip, it was a seismic shift, forcing execs to huddle in emergency meetings while the internet dissected every syllable. And in the quiet aftermath, as crew reset the mics, one thing was clear: this shocking exit had rewritten the View's playbook on guest dynamics forever. The immediate aftermath unfolded like a slow-motion car crash, with the studio lights dimming for what was meant to be a 2-minute breather but stretched into an eternity of frantic whispers and averted eyes. Backstage, Costner paced a green room-turned-war zone, his agent on speakerphone barking about lawsuits while a publicist drafted a poised Instagram statement, grateful for the passion but disappointed in the disrespect. Meanwhile, on set, Behar nursed a headache with iced tea, defending her stance to a circling Whoopi. He came loaded for bear. "I just gave as good as I got," she insisted, but doubt flickered in her voice, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. The audience, a mix of tourists and superfans, buzzed with disbelief, phones out capturing blurry clips that would seed the viral storm. By the time the show resumed, the panel pivoted awkwardly to lighter fare, a puppy adoption segment, but the elephant loomed large, with Sarah Haynes cracking a feeble joke. Well, that was more action than in Kevin's westerns. Laughter was polite, strained, as damage control ads for Disney cruises rolled. Off-camera, ABC brass monitored feeds from their New York HQ, one exec texting, "Pull the plug if it tanks ratings." But tank it didn't. Streams skyrocketed 300%, turning catastrophe into clickbait gold. Costner, en route to LAX in a black SUV, fielded calls from fellow stars, Kevin Bacon texting solidarity, Diane Lane urging calm. His representative confirmed to TMZ, Kevin left due to an uncomfortable environment, not his scene. Behar, post-taping, faced a gauntlet of paparazzi at the stage door, flashing her trademark grin. It was lively. That's the View, unfiltered. Yet insiders whispered of internal rifts, with younger hosts like Alyssa advocating for empathy training to avoid future blow-ups. Social media became the true battlefield. #FireJoy trended with 500K posts, memes of Costner's exit synced to dramatic Western scores flooding TikTok, while #StandWithJoy rallied liberals praising her fearless takedown of celeb virtue signaling. Late-night hosts pounced. Jimmy Fallon reenacting the standoff with props, Colbert quipping, "Joy Behar just outdueled Kevin Costner, next up, she takes on Godzilla." Costner, ever the professional, held radio silence publicly but was spotted that evening at a low-key LA steakhouse, toasting with director buddies over the absurdity. The network, sensing opportunity, teased an exclusive follow-up for tomorrow, but whispers of apologies swirled. This wasn't mere gossip fodder. It spotlighted deeper fractures, generational clashes in Hollywood, the scrutiny on eco-claims amid climate crises, and the tightrope of opinionated TV. As the sun set on that chaotic day, one truth emerged: Costner's shocking ousting had humanized him, flaws and all, while reminding Behar that even queens can topple from sharp words. The ripple effects, just starting to lap at the shores of celebrity culture. Fast forward to today, October 14, 2025, and the dust from the Costner-Behar brouhaha shows no signs of settling, evolving into a cultural touchstone that's reshaped conversations around accountability and authenticity in entertainment. Costner, back on his ranch, released a measured video statement via YouTube, viewed 10 million times in 48 hours. "I respect the View's boldness, but dialogue thrives on mutual respect, not gotchas. Let's keep telling stories that unite, not divide." Fans flooded comments with heart emojis and pledges to stream Horizon, boosting its box office by 15% overnight. Behar, unbowed, addressed the melee on yesterday's episode, flanked by a subdued panel. "Look, Kevin's a talent, but when you're a public figure, tough questions come with the territory. I'd do it again, minus the drama," she declared, earning cheers from half the crowd and eye rolls from the rest. Whoopi mediated with wisdom. "We're family here, but guests aren't punching bags." Ratings for The View spiked to season highs, proving controversy's cold cash value, though advertisers like eco-brand Patagonia reportedly pulled spots, citing brand misalignment. Costner, meanwhile, leveraged the buzz into podcast invites, where he delved deeper into his conservation battles, from suing developers over California coastlines to mentoring young filmmakers on sustainable sets. Joy pushed a button, sure, he admitted on the Joe Rogan Experience, but it sparked real talk on greenwashing. Worth it, listeners agreed, downloads soaring. Behar's defenders, including Gloria Steinem via op-ed, lauded her as a feminist firebrand, exposing male privilege in Hollywood's self-congratulatory eco-circle. Critics, though, piled on. Variety's headline, "Behar's ambush, when hosting turns hostile." The incident even infiltrated pop culture, with SNL prepping a cold open spoof starring Beck Bennett as a drawling Costner and Kate McKinnon channeling Joy's acerbic twang. Broader ripples, renewed scrutiny on celebrity jets. Costner pledged to offset future flights via carbon credits, while The View announced a guest guidelines overhaul, emphasizing pre-interview boundaries. Alyssa Farah Griffin emerged as the voice of reason, tweeting, "Passion is great, pain isn't. Let's evolve." As weeks unfold, this clash could heal divides or widen them, but one legacy is certain. It humanized icons, showing Costner as more than a matinee idol, flawed, fierce, and Behar as the unyielding conscience daytime TV needs. In a world craving realness, this shocking exit wasn't an end, but a bold reboot, inviting us all to question, clash, and ultimately, connect. What's next for these titans? Only the ratings will tell, but for now, the West, and the talk show wars, feel wilder than ever.